Okay, we are back with the Challenger 850, which is a 40-channel AM sideband CB radio. This is the one that had, I'm assuming it had to be a ham, because they tried to put this into the 10-meter band, and I don't mean, extra channels above 40. I mean, they tried to get this into the top end of the 10-meter ham band. So, the crystals they installed, the pair of crystals they installed in here, it's two of these crystals down here, that they had swapped in are like 1 point something megahertz higher than what's supposed to be in it. So, they weren't trying for, channel 41, 42, 43. They were trying to get basically 1 megahertz higher in coverage to get, like I say, up into the top end of the, the 10-meter band. But, and rather unsuccessfully, because this radio, it just doesn't broadband out that far. It's not so much a broadband thing. It really wasn't designed to operate that high. So in any case, customer sent this to me. Wants it put back to a CB radio like it's supposed to be. And one big problem there. The two crystals in this thing is a 16.270 and a 16.273 that are needed. They are an oddball crystal. It's not something somebody stocks. It was used in basically this radio and its big brother, which is the Challenger, God, what is that right off the top of my head, trying to think. Was that the 14 or 15, or 12 or 1400? And that's pretty much it. So, it's not like I can just walk over to the bench and grab a set of crystals out of a junk radio, or, any of another, 2 or 3 dozen different models of radios that might use the crystals that are in this thing. So, you're kind of stuck with, now you've got to order custom crystals, and that's not cheap, because that starts, if I need 2 crystals, you're looking at over $60 with shipping. And because it's a unique application, the crystal manufacturer did not have any reference on this. The crystal company that I use, International Crystal Manufacturing, is extremely good with ham radios. I mean, that's what they do. That's all they do is crystals and filters. But I've found over the years, for starters, they had top-notch crystals. I know a lot of people, you'll hear people say use Jan crystals down in Florida. Actually, I think they went out of business, and probably because they had a bad reputation for crap quality crystals. International Crystal Manufacturing, on the other hand, I've never had anything but positive results with their crystals. Extremely high quality. They make, for lots of big companies, So, but like I say, they're custom cut. So, you're looking for a pair of custom cut crystals, a little over $60 with shipping to get them to you. And since this is a unique application, since they didn't have specifications, they didn't have any reference, because they've never made a pair specifically for one of these chassis, this or the, the base station model. They didn't know what specs to cut these crystals to. I mean, they know the frequency, but they don't have, now I'm not a crystal manufacturer, so I don't know all the particulars exactly what, goes into, for as far as engineering, what goes into designing the crystal when they cut the quartz. But, they need to know input impedance. There's a lot of specs that go into that. So, I sent them a copy of the schematic for it, and then they basically, what they do is they cut a set of crystals to, I guess, what you could consider the standard for most CB radios. So, and that's what arrived today. So we have our 2 crystals, 16.270 and 16.273. So here's our nice 2 brand new shiny crystals. They even do the laser etching on them. It's not printed on there. It's kind of hard to see through the bag. But they're laser etched, gold pin. Like I say, they're top-notch crystal manufacturers. But here's where it gets kind of tricky. So what I do now is I install these 2 crystals. Keep all my fingers, toes, arms, legs, any appendage I can find that can be crossed, cross it. And I'll tell the customer the same thing. Cross everything you got you can cross. And pray these 2 crystals work. Because they were cut on basically on a guess. They're looking at the schematic, trying to reverse engineer and figure out line impedance and whatnot, the load and whatnot inside the circuit. They can only kind of get close to, trying to figure out what the spec should be for this crystal. So what I do now is I install this pair of crystals into the radio, all appendages crossed, turn it on, and check to see if I can get these 2 crystals into alignment. If I can, fantastic. Job done. Well, other than recapping it and restoring the radio. But as far as the undoing this 10-meter mod, it's basically job done. If they work, that's fantastic. If not, what I have to do then is, now when they made these crystals, what they actually did is they cut 2 of each. So there's actually, when they made these crystals, they made 4 of them. They kept 2 of them as reference crystals, and they have those in stock now, and under my name, as reference crystals. So if these do not work, if I can't get, if I stick this crystal in here, if this is the 16.270, let's say it needs to be calibrated to that, if I can't get it in, with the trimmer caps and the transformer adjustments, if I can't get it into alignment, that means a second set of crystals will need to be made. And what I'll do is I'll take some frequency mouse, center the trimmer cap, center the adjustments, take some frequency measurements, then I can send that back to ICM, and they'll cut me a new set of crystals that will basically drop, but they have that reference crystals. They have a set of crystals sitting at their plant now that are exactly the same as these 2. And they'll use that as a reference. They'll take frequency measurements off those, and they can then recut a second set of crystals to stick in this. But of course, now you're getting a second set of crystals, so there's another $60 couple dollars, by the time you pay for shipping, another $60 couple dollars for another pair of crystals. So, it can get expensive doing that. They're pretty good. I've always had good luck with them. Like I say, that's all they do. They've been around for years and years. They're not some little chump change working out of a garage crystal manufacturing company. That's, they're a big company, so they know what they're doing. But like I say, they just like to let you know ahead of time that there is a possibility in unique applications like this where they don't have any information on them that you may have to get a second set made. And the customer's aware of that. So, we're keeping fingers crossed, and we're going to see if we can get this radio back up and running with this set of crystals. I'm being very positive here and hopeful. So I shall return after we get these installed, and if they work, I can go ahead and do the rest of the restoration on this, and I'll return to show you the finished results on this. So the Challenger 850. We're back with crystals installed. Like I said, I couldn't remember right off the top of my head what crystals someone else had and stuck in here. Now that I have them out, get that to focus or not. I'm going to try setting them down here so they're not moving around. Can see, but in any case, there's 17.813 and 17.810. So yeah, and this is supposed to have 16.7. What are these? 16.270 and 16.273. So yeah, they were like 1 point, what, roughly, God, 1 point. Say 1.5 megahertz, a little over 1.5 megahertz higher than what's supposed to be in there. So, yeah, definitely someone's trying to get to the top end of the 10-meter band. Yeah, same radio, just added, because I'm working on it now, so I've got the tape on it to protect the bezel. But, so our 2 new crystals are in here now. Let's see, this one and this one. Okay, so, and if anybody else ever has to work on one of these and runs into the same problem, you need those 2 crystals, pick up the phone, call International Crystal Manufacturing, and these crystals that they cut for me, so they will now have this, and I will call them and let them know. But these crystals worked perfect. Just about dead center of travel for frequency adjustments, so the crystals that they sent, the specifications that they cut them to, they can now keep that on record that what they made these crystals at works perfect. So if anybody else ever needs to get crystals cut, they now have the specifications for that. They have that on file. So radio's working good. It's on hooked up to the signal generator over there. 1 microvolt signal input. So you can hear it is receiving now on the CB band. So now it's just a matter of going in, recapping it, retying all these wires. I guarantee at one point in time these were all supposed to be nicely bundled. They're just kind of laying in here in a bird nest right now. But we'll get all the caps changed. I still have a few more cores to unglue so I don't crack them, and then I've got the couple transformers here. I'd unglued a bunch of stuff. I'd done some other maintenance on it before, but I need to get there was a couple cracked cores in these, so I need to remove some of these transformers and install new cores in those, because like I say, they're cracked. They can't be adjusted now. You know, matter of fact, there's some of the ones you can still see. They're still sealed in that goop. And like I say, unfortunately, they did that to every single transformer in this radio, and it's not wax. It's the same Sony Bond style glue. You can see that goopy stuff that becomes corrosive over time. So like I say, I'll get in there with some solvent. We'll get that softened up. Like I say, it comes out fairly easily. It's just a little bit of a waiting game. Dribble a little bit of solvent on there, and eventually it'll start to bubble up and soften, and you just grab it with a pair of tweezers and pull it out. But I'll get all that goop removed so we don't break any more cores like somebody else did with a bunch of these down in here. And this should be a good working radio again. So the TRS Challenger 850 is now coming back to life as what it was intended to be, a CB radio. Oh, and before I forget, see the manual over here inside of the picture. Before I forget, I'm sure Sam's did an update. They were known for, if they ever made errors, they were pretty good at, you know, in future, you know, especially like with their manual series, like automotive radios, tape players, the CB series manuals. If they made an error, what they would do is in the future issue, they would put in corrections to that issue, you know, that there was a correction for a radio. So we're working on TRS Challenger 850. So one thing I noted, and probably if I went into issue 280 or 281, I'd probably find a correction. But one thing I did notice when I was aligning the PLL circuit was you're supposed to, right here at TP1, okay, and this for starters uses an oddball PLL chip. It's, you see down in there, a UPD 2810C, really oddball, runs, and I'll tell you why it's oddball, and it's obvious when you get to here, okay? TP1 is where they tell you to take, is one of the parts you check in the alignment, okay? And they're going to tell you input a frequency counter, TP1, IC1, which is that PLL chip, channel 19, and you're going to adjust for 10.240. And I know probably why somebody mistakenly wrote that, because it does have a 10.240 crystal in it, and that is the common, you know, fairly common and almost universal crystal and oscillator used in most radios. But this PLL chip, on the other hand, is an oddball PLL chip. It's not actually 10.24, and that's why frequency conversion on these radios is all but impossible. If you do frequency expansion on these radios, you end up in between channels, and I'll show you why. So this probe is attached to this frequency counter right here. So let me get it hooked up down here to TP1. They were nice enough, they had these nice tabs. Unlike a lot of manufacturers, you're left trying to cram down in and hook up the leads. They actually put nice test points in this radio. Yeah, 5.120. Uh-huh. Yeah, we've... and that's exactly what happens. If you try to do extra channels on one of these radios, what you end up with is extra channels spaced. Because that's, you know, that's half of... 5.12 is half of 10.240. And what happens when you do a frequency conversion on one of these radios is you end up on half channels. So almost all of your extra channels end up on half channels, and it's pretty much useless, you know, being in between channels. So yeah, that's something I thought I'd make a quick note that, yeah, if you ever work on one of these, the Sam's manual on the Challenger 850 is incorrect on what you're supposed to read on TP1. So just remember that's actually supposed to be, yeah, you can try and adjust that all day long for 10.240, you're never going to get it. This PLL chip is outputting a 5.120. It's a divide by 2 right there. So just something to keep in mind. One last little thing on the modification that had been done to this. I just pulled out my folder and actually found this. So actually this was a published modification for this radio on the 850s and the 1400 TRS Challengers, on expanding it for channels from 28.505 to 28.945, or 28.960 to 29.400. And so, as I said, someone was trying to get to the top end of the 10 meter band. Well, that's what they did. They did the 28.960 to 29.400 megahertz modification. So 17.181 or 17.81, that's that crystal, and 17.813, that's that crystal. So yeah, that was a published modification for doing this. So yeah, that's definitely what they were trying to get to, upper end of the 10 meter band. So I just thought I'd quickly update on that yes, definitely it was a published modification. So I just wanted to add that info for you.